This is so utterly humiliating for Pam Bondi. The Attorney General had a public meltdown over the resignations of the 6 top prosecutors in Minnesota. Many of those prosecutors were also involved in the fraud investigations that former President Biden initiated in order to root out fraud in Minnesota. And there's fraud in lots of states as well, but these were the main prosecutors dealing with that. And the Trump regime and Pam Bondi wanted them to criminally investigate the widow of Renee Nicole Good, to go after the widow and to not investigate the officer or the rogue ICE agent Jonathan Ross, who killed Renee Nicole Good. At the same time, there were 6 resignations in Minnesota of the top federal prosecutors there. You had at least 4 or 5 major resignations from the Civil Rights Division in Main Justice in Washington, D.C., because they were ordered by Pam Bondi not to investigate the killer of Renee Nicole Good, but again, to go after the widow of Renee Nicole Good. Horrific. Now, the total of resignations at the DOJ is now around 3,000. When we reported last month, that number was 2,900 attorneys. Brad Heath was the one who reported that story. More than 2,900 attorneys quit the Justice Department or were fired during the first 10 months of this year, about triple the number who depart in a typical year. That was just through 10 months. And now, extrapolating further, that number seems to be closer to 3,000, maybe even more. But the key federal prosecutors in Minnesota now, Pam Bondi having this complete and utter public meltdown. She, of course, went on Hannity to start crying. Of course, she goes to state regime media where she cries and whines and says, "Can you believe that these prosecutors were interviewing at liberal law firms? And I told them, they said I quit. And I said, you don't quit, you're fired, and you don't get your benefits. If you don't want to investigate the widow of Renee Nicole Good, I fire." They quit, Pam Bondi. They said, bye-bye. We don't want to be a part of your piece of trash, DOJ, your utter embarrassment, your child sex trafficking cover-up ring. Pam Bondi, you've turned the DOJ into a racketeering enterprise for the purpose of covering up child sex trafficking. You should be disgusted with yourself, Pam Bondi, but there you are on Hannity. Are you crying, Pam Bondi? Let me show everybody what went down here when Pam Bondi had a breakdown. Was she crying on public TV? While live here, play this clip.
What happened in Minnesota? We had 6 prosecutors who suddenly decided they didn't want to support the men and women in ICE. One of them was busy doing a photo shoot with the New York Times while ICE was out there risking their lives. So they came, they said, we want to resign, but we want to use our annual leave up until April, meaning they wanted the taxpayers to pay for them to go on vacation because they decided they didn't want to support law enforcement. So the breaking news tonight, I fired them all. They're fired from the office. And our U.S. attorney there, Rosen, he's great. He was just confirmed 3 months ago. So he has his hands full. And that's what we're facing around the country, the deep state, in many of these offices. And we learned these people had been out there interviewing at liberal law firms prior to this. But I'll tell you what, from a personnel level, they'd be an HR nightmare. So people better look into them. One of them actually in 2022 defended BLM when they burned down a pawn shop and someone was murdered. Yeah, they want to be part of the resistance. Yeah, bring it on. They're not going to be working for Donald Trump and the Department of Justice any longer. But that's what we're up against, not only in Minnesota, but around this country.
Oh my God. And just to remind you, some of the top prosecutors who quit there, you're talking about the Maine deputy and all of their line prosecutors. Then from the DOJ Main Justice, I mean, you're talking about all the top people there as well. I always want to bring you this because the mayor of Minneapolis, Mayor Fry, said to the Fox host, when the Fox host was trying to cross-examine him about, well, what do you think about this, that, and the other? And Mayor Fry, Jacob Fry, is like, look, you want to know something? Don't you all pretend that you care about the fraud? What do you think that the prosecutors who were involved in those cases all resigned? You realize that's going to make us far less safe. Watch what he says here. Play this clip.
There have been investigations into this fraud now for years. People have been prosecuted, people have been convicted, and that's the way it should be. When you commit a crime in this country, you are held accountable and you go to jail as an individual. You go to jail as an individual. Entire communities, entire populations are not held accountable for the actions of the individuals that actually did it. And so that's where my position is. And again, if we care about the investigation of these crimes, and I do you find it concerning that all of the people that were actually investigating and prosecuting this crime just walked out? Do you find that concerning?
We just cover it and we see where the facts lead us and we will report on it. And that is why we so greatly appreciate your time and having you come in and weigh in on these things. I'm sure that's the case there, Griff.
All right, now going back to Pam Bondi's public meltdown, she was also asked by Sean Hannity about the fact that the FBI, through the DOJ order, executed a search warrant at the Washington Post reporter's home, Hannah Nathanson, who was widely referred to as the federal government whisperer. She's the one who developed 1,169 sources within the federal government of people who were whistleblowers against all the illegal stuff that DOJ and Trump was doing and all of their criminal acts inside the government. Well, Pam Bondi demanded the FBI execute a search warrant at her home. They seized her phones and her personal laptops and her Washington Post, her journalist laptop, but they took all of her personal stuff to what? To confiscate it, to go and find who her confidential sources are. So here's what she says too, and she's like, this is perfectly normal. This is just what we do. Here, play this clip right here.
Well, I mean, I guess there could be a couple of scenarios. One, if the press was soliciting classified material purposefully, and maybe that could be proven, maybe that can't be proven. Or what if something is sent that's classified and the reporter had no idea it was classified?
If the reporter had no idea it's classified, we have the right to have that returned to the Department of Justice. I cannot, and to the Department of War is where it belongs. I cannot talk about the facts of this case because right now it's just a search warrant to retrieve the information that belongs to the Department of War. But the guy who worked for the Department of War, he is in jail and he should remain in jail.
Then you had Bondi and Trump send out their stooges, their MAGA Republican sycophants to DC. And we made sure at the MeidasTouch Network, because we have our DC bureau that's open right now, to press these sycophants about what their view is about the DOJ not turning over the Epstein files and violating the Epstein Transparency Act. And you had over here Lauren Boebert say, oh, I think the DOJ is releasing quite a bit. They've only released 1% of the records. They are a criminal racketeering enterprise involved in covering up a child sex trafficking ring. That's what you meant to say, Lauren Boebert, right? Here, play this clip.
Are you concerned that 99% of the Epstein files haven't been released yet?
I think we're releasing quite a bit, and the DOJ is working. I mean, at least they're producing something. The Clintons couldn't even show up for a deposition. And
you had Tim Burchett say the following. Here, play this clip.
What's your message to the American people who are waiting for the other 99% of the Epstein files to be released by the Department of Justice?
Well, tens of thousands have already been released. Interesting thing that's not the point that's not being made is that when we released these files, the Democrats did not. They asked to slow it down. They wanted more stuff redacted. So I think that's a really interesting point that needs to be made.
And then Pablo Manriquez, who has joined the MeidasTouch Network, also interviewed Democratic Congressmember Ryan. So you can see the difference in the types of answers. And Congressmember Ryan was asked, well, what do you think about the union worker at the Ford factory in Detroit who called Donald Trump a pedophile protector and who's now suspended from his job? Watch what Democratic Congressmember Ryan says in contrast to what Pam Bondi's stooges, Burchett and Boebert says. Here, play this clip.
What do you make of the union worker yesterday at the Ford plant who called out Donald Trump as a pedophile protector?
He's a fucking American hero. He is a patriot. He is exercising his First Amendment rights and his rights as a hardworking union member to speak truth to power. So we're proud of him. We stand with him. And you saw how the president responded. He showed exactly how he's treated workers, despite his rhetoric. He is essentially, in real life, given the middle finger to the working class Americans, despite his promises. So super proud of him.
And next, I want to show you the following as well. Here, Pam Bondi is bragging that she rescinded Merrick Garland's memo saying that reporters should not be targeted by the DOJ. Watch what she says here. Play this clip.
Yeah, and Sean, in April, I did a memo rescinding Merrick Garland's memo saying that reporters will not be subpoenaed. We will not look at reporters' phones. I rescinded that because we have to protect our classified information and the heroic men and women in the military. And Sean, the First Amendment is a bedrock principle, but this isn't about that. This is about classified material that could jeopardize lives. And this IT guy that worked for Department of War, and Pete Hegseth has been amazing, and he's up against a lot with these people. This guy that worked, he was a contractor, IT contractor, who had classified information, is charged now with leaking classified information involving a foreign adversary. He could jeopardize the lives, the safety of our men and women in the military. So today, it's been reported that the great men and women of the FBI executed a search warrant at the direction of Kash Patel and my office on the reporter's home, seizing the devices that contained classified material regarding our foreign adversaries. And that's what we're looking into now. But the guy from the IT department is in jail. President Trump has made it very clear. You will not jeopardize the men and women in our military, and you will not leak classified information.
And folks, the hits keep coming for Pam Bondi as well. So utterly pathetic. We now have heard from the lawyer of Brian Cole, the suspected pipe bomber, who says as a result of Trump and the DOJ's position regarding pardons, and not only that the pardons apply to January 6th, but related conduct surrounding January 6th, that therefore Brian Cole, the suspected pipe bomber, should get a pardon. Two-time Trump voter, was there because Trump called people out on January 6th. He responded to the call, and so they say, yeah, why not? Give him the pardon as well. I think he's going to get the pardon, to be totally honest with you. Now, going back to Mayor Frey for a second, let me show you what he says here as he talks more about what DOJ should be focused on and not going after the widows. And he's like, I just don't want ICE hunting down a dad that dropped off his kid on daycare. Here, play this clip right here.
So he is threatening to pull funding from sanctuary jurisdictions that have policies such as Minneapolis. Your reaction?
We have a separation ordinance in the city. And you know what that ordinance says? It says that I want our limited numbers of police officers focusing on keeping people safe, arresting perpetrators of violent crimes, stopping car thefts from taking place. That's what I want them focusing on. You know what I don't want them focusing on? Hunting down a dad that just dropped his kids off at daycare, is about to go work a 12-hour shift, who happens to be from Ecuador. That guy makes our city a better place. So again, if we're talking about arresting violent criminals, Minneapolis does not oppose that, but that's not what is taking place in the streets of our city. People who are American citizens.
I appreciate the compassion.
I want to say this again. American citizens are being taken off our streets right now, and I hope any American citizen out there can understand how concerning that is.
I appreciate
freedom.
Your compassion.
We should be about freedom in this country. We should be about liberty. And when you are an American citizen that is being picked up by a federal agent of any administration, we should all be saying, you know what? Let's take a beat. Let's think this through. Maybe this isn't right.
There's two sides to this story. You mentioned an Ecuadorian migrant. Are you familiar with Victoria Eileen Harwell? an Ecuadorian illegal immigrant in August of 2024, driving drunk, crashed head on into Victoria Harwell, killing her. Her 14-year-old daughter survived, and her sister. ICE released her, local Hennepin County released her not once, but twice, and didn't cooperate with ICE detainers. Why not? Since you're in favor of removing them, cooperate with ICE. Whether you have this sanctuary policy that the DHS says it is, you call it a separation ordinance. Why not just cooperate and make it safer for everyone involved? The community, the officers, and even the migrants.
My position here is pretty straightforward, and that's this. If you commit a crime, if you commit fraud, if you commit a carjacking or a murder, you should be investigated, charged, prosecuted, held accountable, and yes, arrested and put in jail. That is my position if you commit a crime and you are a problem on the streets of the city of Minneapolis that has made us less safe. What I am saying is that a lot of the people that ICE is picking up right now in our city are not a problem for Minneapolis. They've opened businesses. They've been here for longer than I've been here. They contribute so beautiful and greatly to our city. They have families here. They're our neighbors. And yeah, we love them. We love them and we care about them. And I hope that people throughout the country can understand that, we got to be thinking about other people as if it were ourselves. What would we do in these situations? How would we handle ourselves?
Well, there you have it, folks. So Utterly Pathetic by Pam Bondi. We will keep you posted every step of the way here on the MeidasTouch Network. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.